Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Bite Size Rallying, and this time it's the turn of this, the iconic, the sublime, the awesome, and however many other superlatives you can think to use to describe the flame-spitting Renault 5 Turbo, the car campaigned by the reggae Renault Sport from Dieppe in northern France between 1981 and 1986 in the World Rally Championship. And there were two cars campaigned during this period. We have the Group 4 Renault 5 Turbo initially, followed by this, the Renault 5 Maxi Turbo in Group B guys towards the end of the Group B period. So, picture the scene, late 1970s, and the innovative French car company, the parts state-owned French car company Renault, are working miracles with turbochargers, and they see turbochargers very much as the future of the automotive vehicle, and they are at the vanguard of that turbocharging phenomenon that we're all now so aware of. And Renault consider motorsport, and principally Formula One and World Rallying, to be the ultimate proving ground to establish their wares. So, in the Renault 5, they had the ultimate vehicle with which to utilise that concept. The Renault 5, or the Renault 5, was doing a storm in continental Europe. The car was the best-selling car in France. It was to prove to be for 14 consecutive years, and it was not difficult to see why. The fantastic, simple styling, the fantastic driving experience the car afforded, and superb packaging. And France very much took this car to their heart. So having the ultimate base car in the Renault 5, Renault maximised the Group 4 regulations of the time to produce the Renault 5 Turbo. So they took the Cléofonte 1.4 PEL plant that was normally mounted in the front of the vehicle and stuck it in the back, bolted a turbocharger onto it and mounted it longitudinally between the rear wheels. Now that was a major departure from a standard Renault 5. And it meant, obviously, getting rid of the boot. Now, the boot in France, the French tend to use their boots in their Renaults to store their garlic. And here we see a photograph of a Frenchman with his garlic in the boot of his Renault. But there's no room for the garlic in the boot of this car. So, the rear seats, the boot space, and the parcel shelf where they tend to store their beret all went by the wayside. The Cléofonte turbocharged power unit was in their place, and by putting the engine between the rear wheels, they had to widen the track considerably, so you have this fantastic silhouette of the flared arch in the back of the car to create a real visual appeal. And certainly when you saw the car on the road or on the rally stages with the very narrow track at the front and the wide rear arches, the car certainly cut a visual dash. And also it was quite interesting to see the car in competition because it tended to attack a bend, and there's quite a lot of initial understeer, and the car, as the driver grappled to keep the revs up, to keep the turbo spinning, the car violently snapped sideways at the last minute. So a very spectacular car, and by all accounts quite a difficult car to drive. So when Frenchman Jean Renault and his co-driver Jean-Marc André turned up at the start of the 1981 Monte Carlo Rally to debut the car on the backdrop of the Eiffel Tower, the French nation took this car to the heart, and they sensed that a victory just might be possible in the most iconic of car rallies, the most important car rally of them all, the Monte Carlo Rally. However, the competition was intense. Renault and the Renault were up against Hannah Mikla and the darling of the French Michel Mouton, who were both debuting powerful four-wheel drive turbocharged Audi Quattros. Now in January, in the French Alps, there's normally quite a bit of snow kicking around, so many pundits favoured that if anybody was going to take a debut win, it would be the four-wheel drive Audi Quattros. And sure enough, Hannah Mikla did lead the rally, but when Mikla faltered, it was Jean-Luc Thierry in a Porsche 911 that took the lead, but ultimately he faltered as well. And Jean Renault in the Renault took the lead when it mattered, and there's some fantastic footage of that event on YouTube, some French footage, onboard footage of Renault grappling with the car through the snow-covered French Alps, through La Chartreuse, Berzier, Col de Turine, and it's a sight to behold, and the car certainly looked a handful to drive, but Renault had the measure bit, and ultimately the Renault 5 Turbo took victory on its first World Championship event, the iconic Monte Carlo Rally, and the French nation went wild. They took the car to the heart, so they had already done so, and obviously those sales figures for many, many years to come were cemented thanks to that victory. Now let's to the obvious conclusion that obviously this car had potential. It was rear-wheel drive, and it managed to win on the snow and ice. So the obvious question was, would Renault campaign the car for a full season? But the Franks have very much been committed to the Formula 1 programme, and the rally programme dovetailed that and was certainly second phase, if you like. So Renault chose the events carefully, and the car next made an appearance on the 1981 Tour de Corse on the French Mediterranean island of Corsica. And the expectation was if the Renault could win in the snow and ice, dry Mediterranean tarmac in May should be a walkover. But it wasn't, unfortunately. The car suffered a series of electrical problems, and ultimately it's Bernard Darniche and Lancia Stratus that took victory on that rally. But the car did compete in the 1981 Lombard RAC rally in Great Britain, and Jean Renault, again, this time cordoned by British journalist Martin Holmes, took a very, very creditable 5th place, illustrating the car's potential on all surfaces. 1982, and it wasn't a Monte Carlo rally victory this time, unfortunately. The car faltered on that event. However, in May, it arrived in Corsica, wanting to make amends for 12 months previously. But the competition was again intense. On this Mediterranean tarmac event, a whole barrage of tarmac specials had been assembled. Bernard Darniche was this time driving a very, very spectacular tarmac special BMW M1. Jean-Claude Andriat had a Ferrari 308 GTB. Bernard Began had a Porsche 911. Attilio Bettiger and Marco Allen had supercharged Lancia Rally 037s. And Jean Renault had a 1.4 Renault. But the car was on the pace from the outset, and it took an emphatic victory. The Renault had won the two most prestigious rallying events in France. And Renault repeated that feat 3 years later in 1985 in the Maxi Turbo. As we see this, similar to the car we see here with the large rear spoiler, even more flared rear arches, and at one point the engine bored out to 1.5 by that stage with even more power. And the car took victory against the might of the Peugeot 205 Turbo 16s, the four-wheel drive Peugeots. Renault had beaten their arch rivals Peugeot. So that was 3 World Rally victories for the 5 Turbo and Maxi Turbo. And it was to gain a 4th, unexpectedly, in the 1986 Rally of Portugal, when, on this tragic event where all the works teams withdrew after sadly Joaquim Santos ploughed into spectators, killing some of them, but the privateers remained in the event, and Joaquim Mutino, car number 14, a Renault 5 Group 4 initial Renault 5 Turbo, took victory on that event. So all in all, the car took 4 World Championship victories, and that was 4 more than the likes of the Opel Manta 400, the Ford RS 200 and the MG Metro 6R4. But also in European rallies across continental Europe, this was the tarmac car par excellence, winning in Switzerland, France, Spain, Italy, and indeed Carlos Sainz, depicted here in this car, registration number 2M4747P, took this car to 2nd place in the 1986 Spanish Rally Championship, but not without taking 2 victories, and one of those on the Rally El Corte Inglés on the Spanish Canary Islands, where Sainz relegated a Ford RS 200 and an MG Metro 6R4 driven by my hero of the day, Jimmy McRae, to the lower ranks of the podium. This car was certainly a success across Europe and a spectacular car to watch. However, my memories of the Renault 5 Turbo are a little more humble, and they centre around a Welshman, a privateer competing in Britain in a Renault 5 Turbo called John Price. And I witnessed him compete in an event, but the story of how he acquired his Renault 5 Turbo is quite an interesting one. Price had campaigned Renaults and was a vehicle preparation expert, and having witnessed Renault win the 81 Monte, he amassed every penny and pound he earned. He put his hands down the sofa, sold everything he could, because he wanted and had to have a Renault 5 Turbo and bring it to Britain. So Price bought a one-way plane ticket and rocked up in Dieppe the HQ for Renault Sport, demanding that they sell him a 5 Turbo. But the French want to indeed to do so. They had a waiting list as long as both their arms, and obviously they committed to various French customers. Mr. Price, or Muscle Price, from Wales, wasn't really the top of the hot prospects list. But Price was an obstinate gentleman, and he staked out the Renault Sport factory in Dieppe for 3.5 days before eventually the management relented. We have a cancelled order, Monsieur Price, they announced, and they allowed him to buy a Renault 5 Turbo. And he took that back to Britain and competed in British National Tarmac Championships. And he took 4 championship victories driving his red and white ex-registration Renault 5 Turbo. And it was that car that I saw him competing. My dad took me to a single venue event in northwest England called the Mayfield Safari Rally, which was held at Knowsley Safari Park in January of either 1984 or 1985. And we watched the start line of one of the special stages, and the marshals are counting John Price down. He's bouncing the car off the rev limiter to keep that turbo spinning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when the marshal raises the flag and shouts "Go!", Price lifts the clutch, lights up the rears, and is off down the road, up through the gears. And he was just as he was going out of eyeshot, there was a sweeping fast right-hander somewhere near the line enclosure, and the car was flame spitting as it disappeared into the distance. And from that point, this car has been cemented very much with a place in my heart, and it's an iconic rally car. And I said when in the Impress WRC episode a few episodes ago that was the best looking rally car of all time. But to be honest, I'm beginning to question my own judgment. Is this the best looking rally car of all time? Let me know in the comments below. So there you have it. The Group 4 and latterly the Group B Renault 5 Maxi Turbo. Thank you for watching this episode of Bite Size Rallying, and I'll see you on the next one. Au revoir.